Hello, and welcome to Forthrightly News, Fortnightly, with me, G. To begin with, something that is not about Egypt. A man was pumped full of something by a man wearing a uniform in Brighton. Lead. He is dead though. Details are sketchy, but he was a, quote, well-known local criminal. The Egyptian protest raged for another whole week, as the protesters proved a long-held Gregism, that being, if you are planning on protesting in order to achieve a revolution, then you'd better not fucking go home, otherwise no one will give a rat's ass. During the last fortnight, we saw Cameron try to look globally important, stood next to Ban Ki-moon, aka King of the World. Sorry, UN. Whilst Baroness Ashton, US Foreign Policy Supremo, did fuck all about anything. Then, suddenly, on Friday, the news came in that after 20 days of protest, the army had taken control and would usher in democracy. So, we have seen an historic event indeed, a military coup that includes full popular support. Any person who nails themselves to the progressive pigeonhole should watch this situation carefully to see how well this democracy progresses. Obama's great predicament was laid bare, blowing in the wind, unsure and dithering, much like Mrs. Burko, wife of the Speaker of Parliament. Obama must balance lobbyists, i.e. Israelis, financiers, i.e. Israelis, the public, or public whose opinion has been garnered towards a very specific worldview, with the demands of the people actually being affected. Luckily, the people on the street in Egypt give as much of a fuck about financiers and lobbyists as everybody else should. A particularly evil man dressed himself as a schoolchild and then blew himself up at a Pakistani girls' school. Julian Assange, founder of WikiLeaks, was in court again facing the prospect of extradition to that most heinous of human rights abusers, Sweden. His lawyer tried the fairly far-fetched argument that he would face a serious threat to an unbiased trial. Actually, it isn't as far-fetched as it might first appear. While Sweden may be the world's greatest standard-bearer for progressivism and equality, this whole affair smacks of American involvement, and because of that, it stinks. Surprise, surprise, Jeremy Clarkson and the other Top Gear gals pissed off everyone on TV who was emboldened with the opportunity to express an opinion. And also Steve Coogan, who was forced to write a whole page-long article in The Observer about how rude the whole caboose was. I'm sure Alan Partridge was brilliant at spreading positive vibes about Norwich. Mexicans, however, would have been offended if they hadn't been too busy being killed by drug kingpins and the anti-narcotics brigade. This week saw the introduction of a banking settlement, which aims to appease naysayers who accuse the government of being nothing but stooges for the financiers in the city. What a load of cobblers. They stole our money, and now they kick and drag their feet about nothing more than lending us some of it back. Fuck the fucking fuckers. Those are good for one thing and one thing only. The stake. Credit unions and proper building societies would, for a generation at least, stop these evil crooks from having us over a barrel and then charging us for the privilege. Students marched against spending cuts and fees. Again. As yet, no group has staged a protest that protested about something worth protesting about. Cuts are perhaps shit, but they are necessary in order to prop up a failed system. Till the people change the system, politicians in London and their banker buddies in the city will reap us for all of our future worth. Protest the plague, not the symptoms. Super Bowl XLV went ahead without any bombs being exploded, although, granted, the Black Eyed Peas did sound like a drowning cat exploding. It was generally a good game, and to top it all off, some blondits badly sang the wrong words. It truly is an awesome sight to witness the world's greatest propaganda machine since Goebbels in action. Kosovo and Albania Long the butt of jokes about stolen cars and body part theft, turns out have economies entirely underpinned by stolen cars and body part theft. The EDL and UAF, thugs on both ends of the ever-persistent left-right scale, tried to have a massive brawl in Luton. Unfortunately, they didn't have a massive brawl because the police got in the way, which is a dying shame, as if they had kicked the shit out of each other, it would be good riddance to a bad lot. The UAF are pretty much as bad as the EDL, if not worse. Do not be fooled by their rhetoric. They want you to think like them and only them. Otherwise, you are a fascist. Prisoners and the votes and the European Court and the Human Rights Act and the Tory right wing. This is a complicated, yet fundamentally important issue. Prisoners and the vote is a nuanced argument, but it has unfortunately meant that the government has trampled all over the Human Rights Act, an act that enables all UK citizens the right to appeal to a higher court than that designated by our supposed betters, an act that turned British subjects of the Queen into citizens. Prisoners maybe shouldn't be voting, but the issue has been used as a tool in the anti-EU right wing to help bring back the good old days of Eton and Harrow and bonded labour and the right of a noble man to issue a writ to a young-looking waif on whatever whim he may particularly be thinking of. Talk from the right about protecting British freedom is barefaced lies, nationalistic cultural reproduction. They wish to protect their own privilege and not to give it to others. The voting system change was debated in the Lords, and one gaping hole of an issue was not addressed. AV is not PR. AV will serve only to further the Lib Dem cause. It does not amount to a truly democratic regime, though it does have the advantage of giving the winners that opportunity to claim a majority, even when they don't get one. Unlike now, where they don't claim a majority, but still get power as if they did have one. AV is window dressing for oppression by the Westminster dictatorship. For once, everybody can agree with Seb Coe, who gave West Ham the go-ahead against Spurs, whose plan to knock down the Olympic Stadium was simply rubbish. Manchester United finally lost to that awesome footballing powerhouse, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Hope is renewed that Fergie will lose a Premier League title for a change. Not too much hope for Robert Kubica, who managed to fuck his upper left side up on the way to the start of a rally. That's correct, on the way to a rally, not during, on the way. Because of this, he will miss at least 3 months of the new Formula 1 season, just as his car looked like being a winner. The Six Nations is in full swing, and England scored a massive victory over Italy. Although the promotional coverage has been so dire, you could be well forgiven for not knowing that England might actually win the baddie thing. Australia went from being flooded to death, and seeing the water recede, just about took a deep breath in order to carry on with life, when it got smacked up the arse by a cyclone. At least all those wet people can now get blow-dried. Finally, 3D printers are here. That is, printers that can physically create a complex object. In other words, Star Trek-style replicators. But it is early days, and expensive. However, scientists worldwide are hailing additive manufacturing as the future of production.